What's going on, guys? It's Badger here, and today we have the launch of Arms Week. This is a week-long event in Destiny 2 where a certain weapon will be focused, which for this week, it's hand cannons. The event is free to all players, and it lasts until next Tuesday, August 5th, at weekly reset. This event is based on Arms Day from Destiny 1, in which Banshee would allow us to test, place orders, and deliver us new weapons every Wednesday. Logging into the game, we see the Arms Week promo launching with two new weapons that are going to be available this week. Let's take a look at those weapons now. So looking at our first featured weapon here, we have the Phoneutria Fera, which is a brand new solar spread shot hand cannon. This frame was just released with Edge of Fate, and there's going to be another one coming with Trials of Osiris this Friday. So basically, it fires a spread shot, much like a shotgun would. It's also going to have similar shotgun perks, and also because it's a shotgun, it's not going to have the range like a normal hand cannon would. So looking at the perks in the left column, we got things like Threat Detector, which is going to give you reload speed, stability, and handling when enemies are in close proximity. I think this would be a good perk on this weapon. Just if you look at the reload speed, 25 is not great, especially when I believe its magazine is only 8 shots. Threat Detector could definitely be a good option there. Next up, we got Slide Shot. This has a couple of benefits for this weapon. Sliding is going to refill 15% of the mag. That is a benefit in itself just because you're not going to have to reload if you just want to keep sliding around with it. And shortly after a slide, it's also going to grant you 20 range, which is one thing that this weapon also struggles with quite a bit. And then the last perk I would recommend in the third column is Proximity Power. When targets are nearby, Final Blows will grant you bonus melee stat. Now, the one thing I don't know with this perk is if it has to be a final blow with this weapon or just a final blow in general. Depending on which one that is, final blow in general would give it more value than final blow with this weapon. Looking at the right column then, we have 1-2 punch, which is pretty awesome to have on a hand cannon. You know, if you're running a melee build, this is really going to be a big build enabler over something even like a normal shotgun with 1-2 punch, because you will just be able to have infinite ammo with this because it's a primary instead of being a special. You don't got to worry about running out of special ammo. Next up, we got Swashbuckler, which melee kills are going to grant the maximum 5-stack bonus, which is a 33% buff to this weapon. And then also kills with this weapon will slowly grant that stacking bonus. This would also be really nice to have in a melee build. Next, we got Surrounded, which is, I believe, the highest damage buff in the game at 40% when you are within 15 meters of 3 enemies. Being a shotgun hand cannon, basically, there's probably going to be a lot of times where that condition is met and you're going to get that 40% increased damage. Next up, we have Frenzy. Being in combat in 12 seconds is going to grant a 15% increase to damage, 100 handling, and 100 reload speed for 7.2 seconds. The reload speed is going to be the big thing here, but the 15% damage is also going to be something nice to have on this. And lastly, we have Incandescent. This being a solar weapon, and solar weapons being heavily featured in the artifact this season, I can definitely see a play for this. It's going to be interesting to see how it works on a spread shot hand cannon and how this thing is going to put out damage, if it's, going to be able to snag kills pretty easily or not. But definitely one to look out for here. And then on this weapon for masterwork, I would say probably want to go with either reload speed or range, just because this weapon does lack both of those pretty significantly. For your god rolls, a couple I would recommend. Proximity Power with 1-2 punch. This is going to buff your melee stat, so if you are going heavily into a melee build, you are probably going to have over 100 melee anyways, so it's going to increase your melee damage even further at that point, along with 1-2 punch, which is going to give you that 165% buff to your melee damage now, I believe it is, since they changed that in the Edge of Fate. Another god roll I would recommend, Slide Shot with Surrounded. Slide Shot, you don't really want to be reloading, and if you're kind of in the mix of things, you can just keep sliding around, and if this thing does do good damage, that 40% increase to damage is really going to buff this damage up. Then lastly, two rolls here, I would say. Threat Detector with Frenzy or Incandescent. I could see either of these being good. Threat Detector is going to give you 60 reload speed And then if you do get Frenzy active, that will add on top of it, bring it all the way up to 100. So I guess really you wouldn't even need Threat Detector in this case. But if you would be using Incandescent instead, just be a really easy condition to be met. So could be a nice roll, definitely. Next up, we have the Ribbontail, which is a strand adaptive frame trace rifle that is also dropping with this event. Could be interesting, but Unsworn from Sundered Doctrine, I believe, is just a much better trace rifle because of that origin trait that either gives it explosive payload on a weak target or basically exhaust on a heavier target, which is going to cut their damage by 10%. So looking at good rolls on this in the third column, I really like Subsistence. Since it is a trace rifle, it has a pretty sizable magazine, and weapon kills are going to refill 10% of the mag, which is pretty nice when you pair it with some other perks. Another perk I don't mind too much on this weapon would be Threat Detector, kind of the same reason that I described with Phoneutria Fera, is that you're going to get that reload speed buff, handling, and stability. All very good perks to have on this weapon. And then lastly, Wellspring, which is not always the best ability perk, but it does grant 8% on a kill that's split between all your uncharged abilities. So if you have 3 of them, it's going to divide that 8% by 3, which is some math that I don't really feel like doing right now. But if you'd have 2, it would give 4% to each of them. And if you'd only have 1 that's uncharged, then it would grant 8% to that 1. Looking at the right column, good trace rifle perk, detonator beam, just going to create some more AoE ad clear for you. And since this is a strand weapon that doesn't have anything like incandescent or jolting feedback or destabilizing rounds, this is a nice ad clear perk to have on this weapon for sure. Another perk that is nice with this weapon is redirection, which recently got a buff. Basically, you build up stacks with this weapon, and once you hit yellow bar targets or higher health, they are going to take 100% increased damage until you run out of redirection stacks. So, pretty good perk to have, especially just, general use. And lastly, we have Killing Tally, which is going to grant a 30% increased buff when you get 3 kills without reloading. And then stowing or reloading the weapon will remove all the stacks and you have to start the process over again. For masterwork, really, I would only recommend reload speed just because it doesn't really have a great reload speed. And then for god rolls, a couple I could see being really useful, but for me personally, I like Subsistence with Killing Tally. Subsistence is just it's kind of going to act like rewind rounds where it's going to reload your magazine, but this is going to require you to get kills. And then pair it with Killing Tally, which is going to give you a buff, making it easier for you to get kills. So easier to keep that magazine reloaded and everything. I could also see Subsistence Redirection being pretty good here, just because redirection, it's also going to give you that damage buff. Then we also have 2 other weapons that I believe are going to be released with Arms Week, but it seems like they're not releasing this week. Those being the Trachinus, which is a stasis rapid fire slug, which this is also a brand new frame. So I'm pretty interested and pretty excited for when that's going to come out because this does appear to have some great perks on it. As you can see, it's got chill clip, precision instrument, rapid hit, left from gold, rhyme stealer, headstone. So we'll have to see when this one comes out. And then as well, we have the Synanceia. I might have butchered that name, but that's how I think it would be pronounced. And this is a solar waveframe sword, which is pretty interesting because if you look here in the 4th column, we do have Eager Edge, which this will be the first waveframe sword to be getting Eager Edge. So looking at this weapon though, you also have some nice perks on it. Burning Ambition, Surrounded, Elemental Honing. You do have Eager Edge still there. Then left column, you got things like Attrition Orbs, Sharp Harvest, which is a new perk, good for granting special ammo. And then stuff like Relentless Strikes also, which will give you some sword ammo. So we'll have to wait and see for when those 2 come out, but I am pretty excited for those. So just a reminder for everyone, we do have Solstice coming next week. If you look here, we have the event card for Arms Week, and you can see the bottom here, we have the event track. At level 10, you're going to get the Ribbontail, which is a tier 3 weapon with enhanced proximity power and enhanced surrounded on it. But the weapon does look very nice with that custom hollow foil on it. Then we have Phoneutria Fera. Sadly, the one that you get for free from the event track isn't really that great. Threat remover with Swashbuckler. It's not the worst, but not the best. Looking on the right side here, we have a couple of daily challenges where you can earn some event tokens and a weekly challenge on the right. Launching into the shooting range is where you will go to pick up your quest to start your progression in the Arms Week event. Now, once you load into the shooting range, you're going to go over here to the right in this little shack where you'll see Ada1, our favorite robot. And once you go up and interact with her, you can see she's going to give you a Phoneutria Fera for free. I believe these are all random rolled, but I cannot confirm that. Then, as you can see, we have 3 quests here to pick up from her. We go to the bottom, we have Arms Week focusing. You can focus a hand cannon, or you can focus a Arms Week event weapons engram, which I'm not entirely sure what weapons we'll be able to drop from that, but could be interesting. And then along the bottom, we have a couple of interesting hand cannons. Out of these, my top picks would be Luna's Howl and Sightline Survey. Here we have our Arms Week quests. The first one is rapidly defeat combatants. The next one is defeat targets in portal activities. And the last one is defeat targets with precision final blows. And if you do all 3 of those, you get a fragmentation surround mod, which expires at the end of Arms Week. And then if we look at the Phoneutria Fera that we got from Ada, we got a slide shot frenzy roll, which is pretty nice. Accurized rounds as well, which is going to give us increased range, and arrowhead break for stability, and full bore for even more range. So we're going to slap this on here and just give it a little test run. As you can see, we're dealing 444 per crit, and once we get Radiant active, that's going to go up to 533. Spawn some Hive in here, and we're just going to see kind of how it does with ad clearing. And you can see right there it actually has pretty decent range. But as you can see, those numbers are not as high as they were before when I was point blank. So the further away you are, you definitely are going to start getting some damage fall off. But for something like this where it's on level red bars, you know, it's not really going to be an issue for you. Spawning in a champion here, we are going to put on the Elemental Daze artifact mod, which is going to give us a elemental effect when we stun a champion. So you see right there, we cause the ignition and we just keep shooting him and he falls like a sack of potatoes. Spawning in a boss here just as a little DPS test. You can see hitting 210 a crit on a boss, which is significantly less than we were earlier to the training dummy. And we even have Radiant procced here, so with the Radiant Shrapnel artifact mod though, we are going to be able to get ignitions to proc for us if boss is big enough that we can apply enough Scorch. So that is going to be the end of the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Hopefully you guys get some good rolls of Phoneutria Fera this week or Ribbontail, and if you guys would like to, I have another video on my channel going over all the god rolls from Edge of Fate. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.